Welcome to the clinical cookout. You know you need it, it's kinda scary, but mental health is necessary. Four educated queens taking the lead, hold their hands and they'll help you succeed. Lay your head back, relax, just like that. Now listen to, learn, and your problems will burn away. Cookout, you know, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind we will be. At the cookout.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and will sometimes provide community resources. We are not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not provide psychotherapy, diagnoses, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
Hey y'all, it is the Clinical Cookout, and we are going to be starting off with our hot sauce, which is going to be talking about politics and mental health. And we're going to start talking about my personal experience. So hopefully this will be something we can all learn from and something we can all just express our true authentic selves, because we know politics, can rattle some feathers. That's not our job here, but we want to make sure that we put this conversation on the table, and we want to make sure that we, as the aunties, give everyone an opportunity to feel safe in this space. To start off, I want to talk about how I was targeted literally a few days ago. I was trying to go to the mailbox, y'all. I've never seen this man before, never spoken to this man before. And I went outside and I seen him. And as professionals, we are very observant of our surroundings. And so the first thing I saw was his gun on his hip. That's the first thing I saw. He had alcohol. He was already drinking. And he was just walking back and forth. I ain't think nothing else about it. Got my car, because my mailbox is, I feel like an hour away. I drove down to my mailbox, came back. And soon as I was getting out of the car to walk inside my house, he said, "Yeah, that's right, bitch, go inside." Yeah. So, with that being said, Auntie Keish don't back down from no fucking fight. Of course I don't. So I said, I did a rewind, and I said, "Excuse me?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's right. Take your fucking ass in the house. I don't know why you so fucking nosy being outside." Literally just cussing me out. So for the viewers, I'm sorry that I'm cussing. I'm just trying to give you the authentic, real interaction here. And I exchanged with him a little bit more, and then he pulls out his phone, and then he starts saying, "Yeah, look at this liberal bitch. There's nothing outside, nothing I was wearing, nothing on my car that would even state what political party I even belong to." And I was like, what is happening? So things just turned hostile very quickly. But of course, I was able to have a little bit of rationale going on, and I took my black ass on back in the house. I was going to call the cops, but him and the person that he was with ended up driving off. And yeah, that is how that situation went. So I ended up calling a few of my friends, because I was just, my body, I could feel my body, the heat coming up. I was scared. I was upset, and I even shedded a little tear, because I felt like, why are we here in 2024? Why is it that I just went out to check my mailbox, somebody would disrespect me, and I was just waiting on a goddamn check? That's all I was waiting on. I wasn't trying to bother nobody. And he felt entitled enough to disrespect me. And I get it. There's a lot of political things going on right now in our country. Regardless of who you voted for, there's just a lot of political things going on. But I just want to let y'all know that there are people being targeted. There are people who experience those type of hostile interactions, and I was one of them.
Okay, so Auntie Keish, is this when you say neighbor, like right next to you, right across the street? And then what kind of neighborhood do you live in? Like, what's the diversity of the neighborhood?
Well, I'll be honest. The neighbor lives literally right next door to me in the next building over. And as far as I know, I've only been here less than 2 months. But everybody I've seen has been diverse: white, black, Hispanic, Asian, young, old, diverse.
So why do you think you assumed that you were liberal? Like,
so I'm not sure why, but when I was talking to my friends, they was like, "Is this the new word for nigger? Is this the new word for instead of saying black, they just call you by your political affiliation of what they think you're a part of?" Which was a good question because I didn't think about that.
But that don't make sense. Owens and all of them out here. Every black person doesn't. That wouldn't make sense to me. I get it, but
I feel like it makes sense. I think it makes sense because when you say liberal, that is kind of more anything goes, and they people assume that black people want that, they'll take that more liberal stance. A conservative stance is usually old conservative white men trying to make things work.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. Liberal get associated with white women usually. Pink pussy hats, white women feminism. That's how typical. Like I don't know.
Either way, I was pissed off, and y'all know I was ready to fight because Auntie Keish don't back down from no fight. But luckily for me, I had some type of rationale and took my black ass back on in the house.
How do you think you got that rationale? Because right then and there, so this is what happens when I get upset like that. My palms start sweating, my heart start racing, my head get hot, and I typically black out and be out there acting a complete donkey anyway. So I'll be acting like whatever they think I am anyway. I might as well play the part. How did you come down from that? Because eventually you went in the house.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I actually thought back to him having a gun, and I knew he was trying to provoke me for whatever reason. And I can't bring no knife to no gunfight. And so I realized I didn't have nothing. I don't believe in carrying guns. It's just not something personally that I do. So I had to go back in the house because it could have easily went left. Easily. It could have been a snap of the finger. He could have pulled that gun out on me. So I had no other choice but to go back inside. Oh, but trust and believe, y'all, he only weighed 120 pounds. I could have took it. So I want y'all to know.
I think I called the police. I would have called the police because I feel
time.
No, I would have went in the house and called the police. Like y'all gonna wait for the police to come, and now you can go wave that gun at the police officers because I feel like, first of all, there's racism involved. If he's, take your black ass back in the house and, you're liberal and this, that, and the third, there's racism involved. There's hatred involved because I was going to go get you don't even know what I'm going to the mailbox for. I'm going to the mailbox. I live here and you are, what did you say, was drunk?
Well, let me say this for the correction. He did tell me to take my black ass in his house. He said, take your ass back in the house. But he did say, I live here. And I'm like, okay, I live here too. Like, it was almost as if he didn't think I belonged there. And I'm like, but I do though. So
even with the undertones, undertones, the gun, the you approaching me, you hostile, you don't know me, you assuming I don't live here, and it's an open carry state, I'd call somebody.
I would. The only reason why I didn't is because he was sitting in the car and I was like literally get ready to walk into my house when he yelled that out. And even though he wasn't pointing a gun at me or doing that, he could have he could have easily done that. He just didn't. And I didn't know what his next move was going to be. So once I got in the house, I said, okay, bet. And I don't know if they thought like, oh, she about to go in there and get something or call the cops, but they drove off before I could even make any moves.
Did any other neighbors see it or support? Or
they did not. I was just trying to get a check, y'all. That's all.
Well, when you got your welfare check and you went back in the house, you were safe.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what he thought too.
You went back into the house because you don't live there. So now that Auntie Keish got her check and everything like that, we do actually want to talk about politics and how you handle the stress during the politic time, because we know that election time is coming up. Emotions start to run real high right about now. So we want to make sure that you're checking your mental health. So into our main dish.
At the cookout, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind we will be. At the cookout, your peace has won.
So when I was telling y'all about, the interaction with my neighbor and how I felt at that moment, there were a lot of emotions that boiled up. Like, I wanted to fight. Like, he was 120 pounds most. So I was like, okay, I done gained a little bit of LBs. I can take it if I needed to. Probably him and his girl. But Um, I didn't go that route. And I didn't go that route because, first of all, I have a job, I have a community that I work with, and there's a lot on the line. And I got a nephew, the guy pulled out his phone and started, when he was calling me a liberal bitch, he was pulling out his phone, recording me. So, of course, that does nothing but escalate the situation, right? Because I don't know where he's going to put this. And if I have a job, basically being a regional trainer through the state, people in the state can see that if they choose to, if they look for it. So yes, I'll be telling my supervisors when I get back to work next week, unfortunately. But it was really hard for me to maintain my emotions in that moment because it was so it was so quick, and it could have escalated. So in that moment, I had to think real quick on my feet as to like, okay, this person hasn't managed their emotions. So what would it look like with your emotions not managed? And what does that look like together? A big old cluster, right? So I had to just get inside and call my people and kind of vent to them like, yo, guess what just happened to me? And let them know like, this is messed up. And I think for a moment, I think there's a part of this where I'd be like, okay, you shouldn't have said this, you shouldn't have done that. But I think a part of me got upset because I felt like he was entitled to tell me to go back in the house. And I don't like that. Like, don't feel like you're entitled to tell me to go anywhere. And I think I wasn't going to let myself cry, but I did. I let myself cry because it was hurtful. It's hurtful when people do that, especially a person I don't know. And I'm glad I was able to go back in my home safely and kind of let it out instead of holding it all in. Because I could have easily went back over there that night because he lived right next door. I could have easily went back and knocked on that door or try to figure out where he was at and say, what's up? You know what I mean? I could have did that, but I didn't. And I chose to just walk away so I can be safe because that was the best rational decision to do. But I also let myself know like you don't have to take that shit either. And it's okay to feel hurt by it. It's all right to feel hurt. You're still human. And yeah, I might be a thug. But I'm also human. And so, yeah, that's how I managed my emotions. Just kept them in check for the moment, but let it out when it needed to be.
Uh-huh. I know it'd be hard sometimes with especially when it feels like racism too, because it's like
Yeah.
that. There's just modern day words. That's all it is that they change it up, and there's modern day undertones to that. I remember about a year ago, somebody said something to me, and I cried. I was just like, and I cried because I was so mad. There's like very minimal that I could do, but just had to deal with it. So I get it.
Yeah, yeah, and y'all know I don't shy away from politics. I never have, and I never will, because I feel like it's a part of my daily. As far as when we help our communities, and when I help the people that I help, politics is a part of what I do, and I'm not shying away from that. But I also don't want it to be to the point where it puts my life in jeopardy, and that is where I get upset at. That's where I get upset.
That's stress. Honestly, hearing the story back from you is super stressful because in my mind, I'm thinking you had to manage your emotions, but he got to act a damn fool, and I don't
Right.
like I gotta sit here and manage myself, but you get to express yourself fully and act a fool. I don't like that's stressful to me.
Yeah, I think that's what pisses me off the most because he got the active food, and I don't like when people feel like they can just do whatever they want to do because this is their country, and so they're allowed to act out without repercussions. Versus if it were me, or let that have been a black man outside acting like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I manage my emotions well, y'all. So you will not be having to bail me out of jail.
Well, I don't talk about politics at all.
Mm.
Not even at work. Like I know a lot of times people want to talk about it at work and stuff like that because I feel like I can't be friends with a lot of people. I'm not smart on them all the time. I'll know what I need to know. But I was it was around like I think 2016 and it was voting time and I couldn't vote then because my license wasn't up to par in the state that we were living in at the time, just because of geographical location and stuff that we go through. But I got cussed out for not voting. Like, how dare you not vote? Um, it's like our ancestors fought for this, for the right for you to vote, and like you're not taking your, you're voting out and stuff like that. So I know that that's a big thing, but I still don't even talk politics at all because I get hot and heavy, and then politics are heavily related to race. They really are. And so that's a very racial and intense conversation for me. So I just stay away from it because I don't always manage my emotions as easily, especially when I get too hot up under my collar. So if it's gonna disturb my peace, I let it go. I say peace.
Crazy thing is politics related to race, politics are related to gender, politics now are related to your character. Like a lot of people that you will look at somebody who doesn't talk about it or doesn't is not as vocal or doesn't speak out. You have people who look at that like, well, what does that say about your character to be silent on heavy issues? And I feel like people get to talk about what they want to talk about. You get to protect your peace and know where you stand. But yeah, externally, a lot of people look at that as character. Like, what is your character in this area? Which is stressful. That causes stress to think that people think things about you solely because you choose not to engage.
Yeah.
I also think that engaging versus not engaging goes a part of people's intentions. If you really want to have a conversation with me about policy, then we can have a conversation about that. But if your intent is to provoke me to get angry and play devil's advocate, then we're not having an honest conversation about what really should be happening and the policies that should be implemented to help the people that are in need. So I always looking at the intention of why this conversation is even happening in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what's funny, Auntie Shiv? You saying that you couldn't vote in 2016, that's something you couldn't do. Like military, move around, license, all that. I know that this is probably going to be taken really hard by people, but I have opted not to vote. Because people can understand if you can't. People can't understand if you choose not to. That's even worse. Like I know in the last political election, people were like, it's the people who didn't vote. That's the reason why Trump won, because y'all didn't get out there and vote. It's never the fault of the non-voter that somebody didn't win. I'm adamant about that. And when people make statements like our ancestors fought for this, no, our ancestors fought for us to have a choice. Like our ancestors didn't fight for you to force me to go vote. They fought for me to have a choice because we didn't have choices. We could make our own choices. So I can choose not to vote.
But yeah, I'm one of those people that's just not very well educated. I don't talk about it at all because I don't have the knowledge. So I'm not going to sit here and get in a back and forth argument with you about something I don't know anything about. But it's also sometimes I think it comes down to more of a popularity contest than it does the actual political issues that are at hand. So to be honest, when I voted in 2016, I only voted for one person because I didn't want another person to be in the office. That was it. For me, it wasn't like, oh, I don't want this political party to be whatever. It was just, I don't want that person, so I'm voting for this person. So even when you do vote, if you're not voting with the knowledge behind it, like it's not really making that big of a difference. So honestly, for me, it's like, did I just not vote because I don't have the knowledge, or am I just going to vote for this other person again because I like them better than the other one?
Or you can gain the knowledge to make an informed decision. Just because I think that we as Black people have been taught that it doesn't make a difference and it doesn't make a difference and it doesn't make a difference. But if you're even not even necessarily only doing a presidential vote, but if you're voting for like your community, you do have a fiduciary responsibility to make things better for your kids and to make things better for like your neighborhood and like your community and stuff like that. So maybe even just getting smart on that. And then if you choose, not to like make those bigger strides, and that's one thing, but that's a personal choice. And as I grew, and I started understanding a lot more and stuff like that. But even with you voting for so that one person doesn't get into office and stuff like that, sometimes that stuff does make a difference because the one person could really destroy things. And it's like, I don't know, just to sit idle, I think some people have a problem with. I don't know if I have a problem either way. I just think that for me, I think I govern my own self. I've learned a lot just growing, and I don't engage in politics with other people, but I make sure that for me and for to affect change with my kids and myself and our community, I'm for our community and I vote for who else is for our community. So that's how I do it, but that's nobody else.
It's important to do it to vote for local and state elections because you have more impact in your local and state elections. I will vote in those. When it comes to the presidential elections, I'm not even a part of a political party. I refuse to call myself a Democrat or anything else. I am independent, well, not independent party, but no party affiliation. So I'm just local elections, yes, because you have way more impact. These bigger ones, no. And like I'm glad Auntie Amber brought the fact up that she's not well versed in it. An uninformed voter is actually worse than a non-voter. So you uninformed, don't go just making uninformed decisions. That doesn't make sense. So I respect that. I'm not well versed. I ain't gonna do it. When I did it the last time, because I just didn't want that person. That makes more sense.
Yeah. I think that there's two sides. For me, I think two things can be true at once. I always use that with my clients. I think that this upcoming election is just I don't know what's going to happen for people's mental health, to be totally honest. And so I'm trying to be as calm and as rational minded as I can about this coming up, but I can see it causing a lot more stress as we get closer and closer to the election for a lot of people, for a lot of families. And to be totally honest, there's a lot of people I let go after 2016 because they showed their goddamn colors. They showed their ass. And I ain't forget either. And I'm the type of chick that if I want to know something, I'm going to study that shit for a long time. So I had went back, studied all the things I needed to study for 2016 because I knew that this was just coonery and connery. Like I knew what it was. And then so I followed it for almost 10 years. And I was like, well, we here because if y'all have paid attention, this is what be happening right now. But instead, we got shitted on for our decisions to either not vote or to not vote for that specific party. And then it's like, no, we shouldn't even have been in a position in the first place to begin with. But people don't want to take accountability for the actions that they engaged in. And so for me, I had to let those folks go. Because they showed their colors and it was stressful for me. And I don't think any of that really went away. I think it's like coming back up again.
No, yeah, it just lays dormant. But for your mental health, sometimes I think that it's best to do some cleaning up. I think with that, because when voting comes up, there is a lot of racial tension, a lot of political stress, sexual minority stress, like a lot of that kind of comes up, but it does make you wonder who you're talking to. And I mean, you do, like she said, it becomes a character thing. So you do kind of have to wonder about who you're dealing with too. But even so, I mean, even so with like where you send your kids to school and everything like that, like, I don't know, it's anxiety provoking. So managing my anxiety, I don't engage in politics with people. My political stuff is within our household. We make informed decisions in our household. And Abraham gets me smarter on things when it comes to stuff. I don't just make blind decisions anymore because I'm too old to be doing stuff like that. So I just kind of I work within my household to make the best decisions for us. And that's how I keep my anxiety low.
I started watching the news. It was literally giving me anxiety. I would have heart palpitations watching the news. I started watching.
And that could be a whole nother topic and a whole nother episode, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I think most people, excluding me because I don't vote that much, but most people do try to vote to make their community better. I do have a question just to close out. I want everybody to answer in the comments if possible. But I did want to ask if when it comes to voting, when it comes to political views, do you feel like someone's political views are very closely tied to the character and their beliefs in areas as well? And this is just stemming from Auntie Keish saying she had to cut a lot of people off after the last election because they showed their true colors. So do you feel like you can be with someone who has different political views than you? Or do you think that that's really tied to someone's character and their beliefs in other areas and it may not work? So just let us know what y'all think.
Relax just like that. Now listen to learn and your problems will burn away. We got just what you need.